Welcome everyone for yet another powerful episode of We Talk Talent. I'm Abid Hassan, Senior Assistant Editor with ETHRWorld. And today I have with me Kavita Kurup, Global Head of Human Resources at UST. Kavita is responsible for all aspects of UST's human resource strategy, including talent management, leadership development, and compensation benefits, as well as leading all human resources functions globally. She's passionate about HR, she's passionate about technology, and she's passionate about learning. Welcome to the show, Kavita. How are you doing?
I'm good, Abhay. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So, Kavita, today I and you will talk about a few things which are very necessary, which are relevant, which are important in all the industries, not only for IT and IAS or banking or FMCG, that is related to all the industry. And for our viewers, today we'll be talking about hybrid talent. Today we'll be talking about gig economy. Today we'll be talking about the pandemic as well. So Kavita, without any further ado, I would like to ask you a question, my first question, and it will more of a, more than a question, it's a, I want your thought, I want your overview on this. So please share a brief overview of the disruption and transformation in your industry.
So if you really look at it, Abid, right, over the last 24 months, right, especially with the pandemic coming in, it has really changed the way we look at things. And there are three main aspects that you can really look at, right? There is change that's actually been the only constant. It has been so dynamic. Everything has undergone a change. The way we work, the way we manage stakeholders, the way we look at clients, the way we have meetings, the way we look at every small aspect of our life. I think the pandemic has made that change, and for some it's been for the better, for some it hasn't, but it has definitely changed the way we look at how we live our lives. Work has now become a subset of life, and you really look at work as part of the life experiences that a person would take place, right? So employers were now looking and saying that, hey, if employees will have to come into work, then we have to look at their personal milestones and see how we can incorporate that with work and present it back to them so that they are able to come back and enjoy working in this entirely disrupted and new environment. The second is people. Investing in people. I think, if you go by any research report, organizations that create these exceptional employee experiences will be the one that will overcome barriers, serve customers better, result in differentiated business results. So a better employee experience today could also mean removing a lot of frustration in mundane processes, which earlier on would have meant getting out of your cabin or getting up from your desk and walking across to a person and saying, hey, how do you get this done? So how do you really automate that? So there is that level of transformation that's taken place. A lot of automation has come to simplify people's lives and make it better. The third aspect, of course, is trust. How is it that we can really look at the change that has taken place in power and balance, right? That disruption. And what is the shift in value that happens between employees, between companies, between customers, and within the ecosystems and the value chain? So the change in trust between all of these stakeholders is also something that has, really made a huge difference. So every business needs a workforce that's ready to face the VUCA world, right? And an engaged, connected team is something I think all of us dream about and work towards, not just in the HR function, but irrespective of where you are within the organization. And that is critical to a business success. So in today's day and age, there is no absolutism in thinking. You have to really be agile. You have to be flexible. You have to look much more beyond the context of digital transformation, beyond the hype of disruptive effect of technologies that the industry has seen till now, right? And just to give a quick statistic, right? 3 years ago, 90% employees working remotely would have been unheard of. Nobody would have thought of it. And today it's very matter of fact, right? All of us go around as CHROs and business leaders saying, hey, 95% of my people are working from home. We moved to 98% of people working from home within 2 days of the pandemic or the announcement being happened. Virtual hiring and onboarding has become very matter of fact today. So the pandemic really made every industry, every organization realize that they had to either evolve or perish.
You highlight a very important point, when you mentioned that a couple of years ago, nobody heard about working remotely. Very few, like not even percentage, I can't even talk about percentage, but this pandemic has changed the way we work, changed the way we live.
Absolutely.
So I think, and it has created new dimensions as well. So I'll talking about the other dimension, which is very important, and especially about after any crisis, and which is employer branding. Employer branding is very important nowadays.
Yeah.
Not only you choose the employees also choose the company or organizations. So how do we redefine employer brands to attract hybrid talent in a virtual context?
Yeah. It's very interesting concept, right, Abid? If you look at employer branding earlier, it meant giving out swag bags for every event. If there was a birthday, you got a swag bag with the logo of everything around it. If there was an anniversary, you got a swag bag. If you attended a conference, there were pens, mugs, books, tags, all having the branding of that organization. And we would collect them by the kilos at home. I'm sure all of us, one of the things that we would look at if you ever changing jobs is the amount of branded material of the current organization that we would have collected in our roles over there. Today, the shift that has taken place is that the employee, the human, has become the brand. Now, for the employee to become the brand, the employee has to relish the experiences that come their way. How am I getting my feedback? How am I being assessed from a performance standpoint? How am I growing within the organization? What's my career looking like? And how seamlessly are these being integrated with each other? So for example, at UST, if you look at a trifecta, right, you have the career management system, you have the performance management system, and you have the learning management system. All three of these are integrated with each other. And at the center of this trifecta is the employee. So the employee owns everything. The employee owns how he's going to grow within the career, get the skills, and because of the skills, then drive his compensation conversations, his career conversations, his learning conversations. So the employee then gets ownership of not just his life, but also, if you extrapolate it, on how the organization is going to be presented, not just to the larger world population, right? Not just to the other peers that are there, but also from a valuation standpoint, also from a financial standpoint. So then that employee says that, okay, hey, if the organization is investing so much in me and I'm able to do so much at the organization from an innovation perspective, from a career perspective, then how is it that I can add more value from a dollar perspective? And that's when it impacts your bottom line and you start seeing the EBITDA and revenues go up. So that is the shift we have seen. The employer brand is now the employee. And if you're able to make the employee the champion of your organization, you really have achieved that complete cycle of saying, hey, this is how our brand is going to be recognized. Because it doesn't matter whether that employee stays with you for 1 year or for 25 years. He is going to represent what your brand represents to the larger population, no matter what conversation or interaction they take.
So an employee represents the true image of the company, yes, if I can say so. Okay. For our viewers, please listen this answer very carefully. The third question that I'm going to ask. So the question is for you, Kavita, that what kind of skills do you look for while hiring across functions? Like, is it technical skills, soft skills, behavior skills, or a combination?
I was also listening very carefully, Abhi, to the question as you were asking
yes.
it.
Now we'll listen to you very carefully. Go ahead.
So I think as organizations, right, today we are building anywhere authentic offices that offer hyper flexibility. Now, what the pandemic did for digital transformation, the great resignation or the great realization is going to do for the gig economy, right? There is going to be new age talent platforms that will come in. But out of all of this, you have to think about some things, right? The question is not about skills. Skill is at a much lower level in developmental continuum that L&D needs to build mechanisms to create that mental shift, right? From axiism to agnosticism. For us, it is the spirit, the mindset of the people that are most important. That stance may or may not be the genesis of pursuit of knowledge. It is the opposite of an axiom mindset, right? So L&D today would need to nudge, prod, and where the appetite of the people to learn, provide platforms to learn. So it's very important that people realize that learning agility is going to become the core competency going forward. How quickly can you learn, unlearn, and relearn new skills? And learning has to become your personal success enabler. It has to be something that you do as long as you decide to work. No longer is the day where you say, college, I did this and hence I'll get into a job and that's all I need to do. And then after a couple of years and I want to move into management, I'll do an MBA. You need to constantly looking at changing the skill sets, the jobs that are there in the market, and define your own career. I think it's very, very important that uh, we focus on what is the career that you want to really build as an individual within the organization or outside, and then see whether jobs are there. So, for example, if I decide that I want to become an archaeologist today, but I continue being a CHRO for the next 15 years, there is no way that I will have that career of being an archaeologist as much as I would love doing that role. Becoming an archaeologist would mean taking certain steps, trying out different roles, and putting together a career path that will allow me to make that shift from being a CHRO to archaeologist. And that happens across every layer of the organization. So we need to encourage wandering, exploring. And I'm going to violate one fundamental adult learning principle here. You said I was passionate about learning, so I think it's very important that I bring that piece in, right? It is said that learning should be purpose driven. I believe that the term has come to make learning purposeless, agenda less, and learn just to learn without any utilitarian objective. So at UST, we really promote and evangelize the born to learn culture, right? We say that, okay, hey, for your current role, these are some of the skills that you have to learn. But if you choose to move into another role, that's not your core skill set. Here are some of the things that you can choose to explore and learn on your own. We will provide you the frameworks and the opportunities to learn so that if you're skilled and your skills are validated, when those roles come up, you will be first in line to apply for those jobs. So looking at skills like hiring across functions, the base skills would have to be required, but organizations that offer opportunities to move across laterally are the ones that are going to retain their talent.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that. And coming to another aspect, you spoke about how you hire, what are the skills you look for. The another aspect was employer branding. Why is it important? One more thing that has become really important, and especially in this pandemic or for any crisis, that is employee engagement strategy. There's no doubt companies, organizations, they have their own employee engagement strategy. But post this crisis, it's totally changed. Be it the crisis or be it the remote working scenario. So what is your employee engagement strategy and how has that changed after the pandemic?
It's what I've been saying, through some of the questions that you shared, Abid, right? Work has become a subset of life. People are looking at what are the life experiences that are tied to the work that I do, and how can I bring life to work and work to my life so that it is not distinct. Earlier on, we used to talk about work and life balance, where you said, okay, 8 hours I will work and then 8 hours I'm going to spend having my life. Today, we are looking at organizations that are trying to create a hybrid format where personal milestones are being celebrated even at the workplace so that people start feeling more connected to what's coming their way from an organizational standpoint, right? It is important that when we look at employee engagement, we look beyond the entitlement that people think they should have as part of employee engagement. Those have now become BAU. And if you look at it, there are different the generations that are there, right? So what was employee engagement for people who are, slightly older in the organization would be, how can I stay with the organization? How can I have a steady job? How can I have security? Having those conversations, having activities around that allowed them to stay connected to the same organization was something that will be employee engagement for them. If you look at the millennials and Gen Z, they are more connected to the purpose of the organization. And it's not just the money that they get as a salary at the end of the day. How is it that they can really drive their own core purpose and link it to the organization? And is there a way that they can make their work matter? That's what's important to them. That said, they're equally entitled. The entitlement bias is high. They expect certain things to be in place. They expect the quick promotions. They expect instant gratification, FOMO, all of that is there. But so you really need to look at employee engagement as different strategies. You cannot have a one size fits all anymore. And that's what we do at UST as well, right? So we look at different cuts within the organization and try and present different formats so that people, uh, what resonates with people is what resonates with that strategy. And we have the colors of UST at that we drive. That's our employee engagement program that is created, run, and managed completely by the employees of UST. It isn't a organizational effort; it is a voluntary effort that they run, and there are different aspects. So you can connect with it from a passion perspective. You can, if you want to build the brand of UST, there is a color that you can be part of. If you want to be part of the community, the practices that happen, there is a color to be part of. If you want to be part of growth, if you want to be part of agility, if you want to be part of digital transformation. So depending on your interest and what makes sense for you, the organization has carved out a program that will hit all of those aspects. The second thing that we really need to look at is how do you really bring the family into these employment engagement strategies, right? How do you involve them? And that has changed in the pandemic. Today, when we do calls on the pandemic, when we have a virtual call, it's very natural for us to have someone's son or daughter sitting on the side and doing their homework because we know that's what makes sense for them, right? There'll be sometimes there will be kids playing in the background, there'll be a pressure cooker, suddenly the whistle will go off. You have all of those happening and you've accepted it, and it's everyone has a quick laugh and you get back to it and you go on. Whenever there are catch-ups, right, virtual catch-ups or virtual coffees or meals, it's as you would do it in person, where you would have your family there as well, and families would meet each other. You do that virtually also. So when you have talent shows and team meetings, you do have the families coming in, and that also has changed the way employee engagement has changed since the pandemic. But I think what is missing because of the pandemic is the actual human connection. And that is something that we are hoping will start coming back now that things are opening up and the pandemic seems to be on the decline. We're hoping that things will get better, where people will start engaging with each other on a more personal level in real life and real time, and not just in the virtual format.
Yes, very rightly put. And the examples that you shared, real life examples, we all face, and that's not a problem. That's not a distraction at all. I think even team meetings, all these things, people have accepted this fact, and we are doing well. So coming to my last question, and I'd like to ask you about gig economy. You know, this thing, sometimes it has remained untouched, but during the crisis, we know how important gig workers were, what happened, and how they revived. And now people are talking about it. There are reports from, you know, government of India about how they are promoting gig economy, how they are boosting gig economy. And there are companies. I've done a lot of work on gig economy in terms of seminars, in terms of webinars, in terms of stories. So I would like to ask you your take on the gig economy, and how mature are organizations in India to capitalize on the gig economy.
Honestly, Abid, I think the gig has taken us by surprise. We weren't ready for it as an organization, and I'm saying organization not as UST, but representing the industry, right? Everywhere. We weren't ready for the gig economy. I don't think as a country or even across the globe, the gig economy, it was something that was in a very, very nascent stage before the pandemic. But what it has really done is give every individual their own story, dream, and aspiration, and an opportunity to fulfill that. So employers, both small and large, are recognizing the value of what the gig employee can bring to them, even though it is for a short period of time. Another thing that the gig economy is really doing for us, it's forcing us to change the way we think and the way we work. How do we look at loyalty programs? How do we look at compensation structures? How do we look at non-compete clauses? Because if I'm a gig worker, I can work for bank A in the morning and bank B in the afternoon and bank C in the night doing the same job. But how do you maintain that level of confidentiality, which earlier on would have been there, right? And I'm just using the banks as an example. It's the same holds true for a technology company, right? And moonlighting is something that everyone is worried about. How are you sure that your employee is only working for you and not for somebody else? But it has, on the other hand, opened up so many doors right? And you were mentioning a report that the government of India has recently done, right? And I was going through the November 2021 BCG report. The gig economy, as per that report, has the potential to serve up to 90 million jobs, which is roughly 30% of India's non-farm workforce. That means 30% of India's non-farm workforce can actually start creating their own dreams, careers, and aspirations using the gig as a base, and who might not get into a traditional job. The women who are at home, right, on a career break or just trying to something because they had to be at home for whatever reason, this has opened up doors for them. They have been able to take on smaller roles, smaller jobs, and then giving them an opportunity to experience the corporate workforce so that they can then decide whether they want to do it on a full-time or continue using gig as a way to really supplement their income and just be financially independent. So I think those are very, very important. And we've got lots of, examples: Uber, Urban Company, Swiggy. All of these are the gig economy of people doing multiple roles. But the interesting time will come is when organizations will start using gig to fill in higher order roles. When we're looking at, account managers and client partners and heads of functions, and looking at how is it that we are really changing the paradigm of working and creating policies and processes to match what the gig is going to bring to us. So it is here to stay. We don't have a choice. It is something that we will have to be very, very cognizant of. And I think the organizations that are adaptive and are able to match the requirements of the gig economy will be able to take the maximum advantage of what the gig has to offer.
Yes, gig is here to stay, and you have to be cognizant of that. It's always lovely to interact with you, Kavita, and it's always enlightening as well. I learn a lot when you share your thoughts, when you share live examples. It's so good and great to host you. Looking forward to meet you again. Thank you so much for taking out time and sharing your thoughts. Thanks a lot.
Always a pleasure, Abid. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.